Hi, I'm Jonathan Fox,
Justin Corelli.
Reynolds Jones.
and we are looking forward. Today we'll be discussing exponential growth, iterative artificial intelligence, and technological unemployment. So, let's start with exponential growth, which is really kind of a cornerstone of emerging technology. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because you're the one that brought this up.
Sure.
You're the one that mentioned it in the emails.
Sure. Exponential growth, what is it? Why should we care? I've asked a lot of different people what exponential means to them, and I get a lot of different responses. To me, I like to think of faster, and continues to get faster. So in the context here, what we're talking about is the technologies that we are creating, all of us together, that are making our lives easier, and the pace of improvement, exponential.
So a continuing speed up or acceleration of
Yes.
growth and development.
Yes, and I think what we're going to talk about here today is why should we care? What are the implications to us and to all of you?
To everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what are some of the implications?
Continued technological growth leads to a number of different things that affect the individual. Continuing exponential growth in medicine is a very positive thing, for example. It has led to a lot of the very new cancer treatments that we're talking about now. It has led to HIV becoming a manageable disease. Had HIV come out in the 1700s, it would never have become a manageable disease. As it came out in the early 1980s, it is now manageable, and people who have the disease, as long as they stick to their regimens, tend to live a normal life. Exponential growth in technology in other areas, such as production, on the other hand, not only eliminates the traditional law of scarcity, but also puts downward pressure on commodity and other prices.
You said that it's a good thing in medicine. This begs the question: is it not good? A growth in productivity would seem to generally be a good thing that makes the society richer. So where is it not good?
It's not
in your
good
opinion?
it's not good when it's used to replace labor with capital. When we use capital money, if you would, to purchase things that replace workers and then deny them gainful employment, we damage the society as a whole if we have any expectation or intention of continuing the style of economic system that we presently use.
What do you think about that? About the idea that there's a kind of downside to exponential growth and exponential development?
Sure. I think about it a lot, and I think it's a concern. I think it's something that it's nothing to be afraid of. This is something that we need to embrace, and we will embrace. But I think we have to be careful about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you think there's a choice but to embrace it? I mean,
No. Luddism failed abysmally. It would not be any more successful this time. However, he's correct. We have to consider the implications, and we have to, in one way or another, encounter them in advance of them having negative effects on human beings.
There you go. So the idea is to look at what's coming and to begin addressing it kind of before it gets here.
Faster, and continue to get faster.
But this, I think, relates back to the idea of exponential. That, when you look at, actually, can you give some examples of exponential growth, like in our lifetime? I mean, we're still in our prime. We've seen a lot of developments. What are some of them?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of exponential technologies. I think perhaps maybe one of the most well known that touches our lives is in computing.
Mm-hmm.
We've been seeing kind of the size and the speed of computer chips doubling, something techies will call Moore's law here. But if you all remember back in your own lifetime, maybe some of you had some of the earlier computers, and we've seen them shrink, we've seen them get faster, we've seen them get cheaper, and so all in all, more efficient. And I think that when we try and extrapolate, will this continue? And if so, what does that look like in a very, very, very near future? And what decisions do we make to kind of jump ahead of this curve so we can be prepared?
The first decision we have to make is to have a conversation about it, a realistic conversation, because the conversations that are being had now are not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
There are too many people who either don't want to look at the potential downside, are afraid to look at the potential downside, or suffer a loss of power if the potential downside is addressed. And we have to get beyond that as a society. We have to address the topic as a whole society with a real conversation.
So exponential growth. I remember within my lifetime, certainly, I remember the iPhone coming out. I remember having a Palm Pilot and thinking that was the most awesome thing that I could possibly own. And then, MP3 players started coming out. And when you look at just what's happened, now we have phones that are cameras and MP3 players, and you've got people able to connect in whole different ways. So what do you guys think, what are some of the real upsides of the technology?
If it's handled correctly, it relieves human beings of nearly all the drudgery in labor, and it allows the human potential of individuals to be realized.
That's awesome.
So I think if we're going to talk about this, one of the things that we should look at is some of the unevenness that we've had. We are fortunate we live in, what's a first world society, a developed world. What do you guys know or think about the way that technology is really affecting the developing world? There's obviously been a lag. At the same time, there are places where you have nationalized internet, where people, regardless of their walk, as long as they can get a phone, can get online. Some people have started businesses in some of these places from phones. What is that? How does that affect globalism and all of those developments?
That goes back to the idea that there needs to be a conversation. We need to have a conversation in America. There needs to be a global conversation. You're correct. It's very, very uneven. But not only is it very, very uneven, but there are significant interests right now that would like it to be just as uneven here. How much do you pay per month for phone? I have 3 phones on my account. I pay $256 a month. What if I couldn't pay that? Well, I would get a degraded service. What if I couldn't afford to pay for high-speed internet? I would get a degraded service. But in addition to the degraded service, it would have downward pressure on me as an individual to be able to get ahead. It's a huge topic and a huge part of the conversation we need to have.
Yeah, I mean, I at least, I see this as almost two different things that kind of come together personally, which is the notion of what we can do with the technology, what benefits we gain from the technology, and sort of what it seems to do to the people that don't have the technology, who come from countries where it's just not available. Um, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'd like to point out that the world is becoming a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by many different measures, despite what we see on the televisions,
Mm-hmm.
On the overall, we're becoming more peaceful, more healthy, more wealthy. The concern is how this will be distributed and whether or not people can access this. You said the conversation has to be had, and I guess what's going through my mind is, so if this is faster, I mean, we don't have a lot of time, and
No, we don't.
who needs to be having these conversations? When do we need to be having them? When do we need to decide by? And what do we need to prioritize?
Well, without bleeding into the next topic, we are a democratic society. We have been a democratic society, the great democratic experiment, small d, since our foundation in the Revolutionary War. The conversation needs to be had by all the people. And if we support global democracy, which we say we do as a nation, then the conversation globally needs to be had by all the people. Having a conversation that only includes a certain group, any certain group, when the entirety of the society can benefit from something, is not helpful. That conversation needs to include everything from the first grader to the first grade teacher to the billionaire. All of them need to be involved in the conversation on something resembling an equal footing.
How do we do that, and why do any of us, why are we going to feel compelled to do that?
Well, we may not feel compelled to do it, but if we don't do it, we and our children will suffer as a result of our not doing it. Because if we just go down the road that one might think we're on, without having the discussion, without making decisions, the majority of the people are probably, and we'll talk more about this in the other segments, but the majority of the people will probably end up with either nothing or very close to it. There's a whole subgenre of literature called cyberpunk that looks at the world that could be. And it is, of science fiction, one of the types that I cannot read because it is so depressing.
And some of it is hopeful.
Some is.
There's some good ones. That's really... so all this really comes out of exponential growth, right? The idea that, some of it really is, I think it was Einstein who said we can only see so far because we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
That's what exponential growth really comes from, is the idea that, this generation's technology is built on the technology of previous generations, and we can just expand it so much faster because every tool we have increases our ability to communicate and process, which is one of the nice things. We can all kind of participate at some level in the conversation. We can all listen, we can all learn, and we can all add our voices. And if you choose not to, I'm reminded of the quote from a Rush song: "If you choose not to listen, you've still made a choice."
I think we're about to transition to another topic, but I guess the one thing that was on my mind is, you guys are right. So I guess, the reason we're shooting this is because we feel that this is something that everyone should be a part of, and so, I guess as we move forward into some of our other topics, I challenge myself and you guys to think about what is it that we can say that, and what is it that others can say and do, so that we can move this forward, so that we can really have. I loved how Ren put it. These technologies have the potential to end human drudgery.
Oh yeah.
But
or create human misery. That's really the choice.
Or create human misery, and so it's our choice. And so hopefully, we can spark some good discussion.
Yeah. Well, with that, I'm going to say that I would like everyone to like, share, subscribe, continue the comments, continue the conversation in the comments, or make a response video. You guys have cameras. We all have cameras. We all have phones. We can all post. We can all share our thoughts. And all of our thoughts are valuable.
And part of the conversation.
So with that, I would like to invite everyone to keep looking forward.